Hi, you're watching Winning Post Ultra. I'm Mandira Lalwani, and this episode is all about paying homage to legendary trainer Zareer Darashah, who decided to hang up his training boots.
There comes a day in every individual's life when he or she has to make the crucial decision of calling it a day. It makes it even more difficult to time one's exit when you're part of a sport where there is no criteria, such as age or fitness, binding on you to make that all-important decision, to bow out of center stage and away from the spotlight. Trainer Zareer Darashah has been fearless in his decision-making, and yet his timing of waving goodbye to the racing fraternity seems to have come a year too soon. Pushing 70 but fit as a fiddle, Zareer has been an exceptional character on the racing turf, with a score of 2,400 winners over an era spanning close to 50 years. Zareer Darashah is one of the most prolific trainers in the history of Indian racing. Mahendra Malia caught up with a multi-classic winning trainer and captured his frank talk on his long journey through the decades.
Well, I planned it about 3 years ago. I said I had to stop. I would have been closer to 70 at that stage. And I said, it's not fair for me to just hold up a place. I've done everything I can. I've spent practically 50 years. I had to sell a lot of my horses because I had shares in about 40 of my own horses. I owned a lot of my horses that I trained. So it had to be phased out, stop going to sales. So slowly I decided to weed my way out. It was about 2.5, 3 years ago. You had to plan its racings. Without planning, how do you train a horse for it? You must have to have an objective. You have to have a goal. When this horse is running, when do I have to get it to peak? Even if you have got a big race, say you're aiming for the Derby, it's 6 weeks away, but I know which is the lead-up race, which is the planning race to get up to it so that the horse is at his best for that Derby day. So planning is a must in training a racehorse. I wouldn't say I had it in my blood. I didn't want to become a trainer when I was in school. I wanted to be a cricketer like my father. And then a sudden change came about me. The last day of my school, I went to see a picture named Wall of Noise. It was a racing picture. It starred Ty Harden and Susan Plachette. And it was about a racehorse and racing. It got me. The Wall of Noise is that last 1.5 furlongs where everybody is shouting and screaming their horses home. It was significant that I saw that picture. I tended to look for something else. And the opportunity rose when my father and mother knew Dennis and Yvonne Jarvis. They came for the Gymkhanas to ride in Mysore, and they stayed at our place. And then I asked my dad, and my dad said, yeah, you can speak to him. You ask him directly. I approached him, he gave me the job, and I just jumped at it and became his assistant. Midway through my journey, I thought, I'm not going to make it. It's really tough. But I stuck it out. I was so lucky to have a man like Ian Dean as our vet when I started with Mr. Jarvis. He was a man who was 50 years ahead of his time. He was not a brilliant man. He was a class act. And the 3 months that I spent with him in Bangalore that first year widened my knowledge to a very great extent. In 1972, I got involved with a jockey named Tom Burke, and he just showed me a new life I didn't know existed with horses. He came and rode for me in Hyderabad in 72 and 73. He was an Australian. He showed me things that I never knew existed in a racehorse, to train it or ride it. He was an immense help to me. The first classic I won, I owe it to him. Farz winning the 2000, the Cold Star Stakes in Hyderabad. He was a class act on a horse. He felt it, and he showed me what it was. When you had mediocre horses, how do you have to ride it? And you couldn't waste anything of coming on the outside. You had to come up on the fence, the shortest way home, balanced and ridden. He was an immense one. help. He just widened my whole horizon. Every single jockey that rode for me just made my knowledge go better. They were super riders. They all won championships with me. They all taught me so much. Jagdish came to me in 1977. He was nearing 50. He was a class race rider, super race rider, not a great judge of a horse to tell you in the race, this is a good thing and that. You just had to leg him up. He rode an immaculate race. If your horse was good enough, it won. There were other great riders. We had Australians. We had English riders. I had a chance of having a stint with Brent Duffy. He came to ride for Jarvis when I was his assistant. He was not super, but he was super. He'd ask me to show him the horses, and he would go around the yard with me walking, and the Sais had to bring the horse up to him. And in 2 seconds, he looked at the horse and just felt the skin on his neck. This is ready, that is not ready. I said, how do you do it? He said, just look into the eyes of the horse. You've got to see a reflection like a mirror in it. And just touch the side of the skin from the neck. It's got to come away like velvet. And you know the horse is ready. He was a class act. Superb rider. Like that, there were so many. I had a long stint with Warren Singh and Apu. They were 2 top class riders. They rode me 1,000 winners between them. I had nowhere to go to worry who's riding my horses. These 2 chaps rode, I told you, for 25 years and 1,000 winners. By 1972, I had spent some time with horses and I was getting better. And one big break came. 72, when I went to Ooty to train, the great Samuel didn't come to Ooty that year. And for Ooty, from the first year I went there in 1969, it was 7,000 feet above sea level. I just did what Sam Hill did. I got my ring next to him. I watched him. If he sent his 15 horses out in a row, out for work, the 16th horse was mine. And my riding boy would ask them, what are you all doing today? And he'd say that, and he copied that work. In 1972, when I came back there, and there was no Sam Hill, I said, this is my chance. His son came, David, but he didn't do anything what his dad did. I finished off champion trainer in 72 in Ooty, and that kick-started me off greatly. When 1976 came in Bangalore, and I got His Highness Sri Kanadatta Narasimharaja Wadia's horses, I was 30 years old then, and it was just the right time. And I had nearly spent about 8 years in training. I got those horses and I won the championship in Bangalore, and that blasted me off into the big time. Well, 2 things you must understand. First thing, you must keep them injury free. If you've got your whole stable of 60 and you're using your entire bench strength to race, you can rotate. Don't forget, you're dealing with a class athlete. You're not dealing with a cart horse. You're dealing with a high-tech machine. You only take the embers to burn up high when you want it to. Fan it up when you use it. And you must use it most discreetly. You have to use it for the best use to win a race. Put him aside. Yes, he's out of handicap for that. You bring another horse in. You bring another fresh horse in. You bring back the same horse that ran second to me. I'm taking it on with a different horse. And after you finish with that, I bring another horse. Then I'll bring back that other horse. It's placing, placement, time off, easy work, happy to race, and wanting to do it with your heart. Feed and exercise are the 2 big points. The feed, the protein that goes in, and the exercise that burns it. You've got to have a good balance with every one of them. If you feed your horse correctly in the right balance, then you've got a healthy, good-looking, solid horse. The best trainers in the world knew how to feed their horse really well. One of India's great trainers, Baba Khan, my father told me, just his horses stood out in the paddock. He was a great trainer. He had the feed thing to a fine art. Sam Hill, when you looked at his horses when they brought him out in the paddock, when I went to Madras first, he just looked different class. And 5-star treatment in the stable. The stable is where you win your race. Well, if you beat one of Rashid's horses or one of the top trainer's horses, you knew you had done a good job. Well, they reacted. Some of them went out of their way to congratulate me. Some people don't. That's left to individually. But you knew you had done a good job. And it was right. There are lots of ways of training, all different. When we came to 1988, when I had Treasure Girl and Lucky Strike, really two good horses, and there was a chance of winning all the classics, and I knew I was going to be up against Rashid, I didn't divert from my training thing, but I wanted to know what he did every day with his horses also. So I had my assistant taking down what his horse did. They were totally different. But we all clashed on that day in the derby. There was a head and a short head between all three of our horses. I could have easily run second and third, but I happened to be first and third. So I was lucky enough to win that race. But it was a job well done with a top guy, with a top professional. And he did it his way, I did it my way. The basics never changed. My first classic win came with one of the best horses India's ever seen. My first derby I won with Firehaven. It was 1973. She was actually trained by Mr. J. Tyrrell. He lost his license about 6 months before that. So he gave me this horse. I ran the President of India Gold Cup before the derby. It was a 1.5 mile race, open to 3-year-olds and above. I met older horses over 1.5 miles and won that race. She's the only 3-year-old ever to win the President of India in Hyderabad. And then I went on to win the derby after that with 16 or 17 days on the 2nd of October. She was a superb horse. Had some problems. Unfortunately, never raced on with Mr. Tyrrell because of leg problems. But she was one of the best horses in the country at that time. Treasure Girl, outstanding horse by Treasure Leaf out of Enfant. I bought the horse just because I was there on the right spot at the right time. There was Dan Kotawala saying, the best horse in the wholesale, the most well-bred horse in the wholesale hasn't been sold yet. And I just went and bought it from Pradeep Mehra. She turned out to be Treasure Girl. She won everything till she had that real freak accident in Mysore when she was going around the first turn in the derby. There was a wicket gate there that the golf course and the race course is intertwined. So that wicket gate, there was a little bit of bolt and a little iron piece sticking out, which caught her on the stifle and smashed her leg. So she was another superb horse of mine. And there was Dupont, Negresco and Darashah. They all won me derbies, all good horses. I trained Young Cavalier, I trained Tobin Bronze, who won me another President of India Gold Cup. But they were all good horses. Well, I was lucky enough. I met Linda when she was 14. I married her when she was 18. She comes from a racing family. She loves horses. She reads a race superbly. She just blended in with my work. She was interested in my work. She loved coming to the races. My kids were brought up totally beautifully by my wife. No one ever came to a race course, no one ever won. All they asked me when I came home, how many races did you win? Thinking it was so easy. Neil suddenly, from being a super cricketer, just changed overnight one day when I had a runner in Bombay. We went to see the runner. He came along with us. The horse happened to win, Just Brave. It won the Royal Western India Cup, which was sponsored by the Trainers Association. And the next day he told me he wanted to come and learn training. He wanted to, I was very surprised, but he came in and that's him. And he's doing well now. I was not going to stop him if he loved it. But I told him there were few basic things that don't change. And that's your timing in the mornings, the way you look after it, the way you go to your stables. You don't miss a day. It's hard work that counts in the end. And you have to work along with your staff all the time. You're captain of the team. You must be there at all times. There's no day as an off day or a Sunday or a break. It's hard work right through. Hard work, determination and application beats a hell of a lot of talent. I never stopped him from having his own ideas. He has his own ideas, that's fine. But the basic things, the basic trends was there and he learnt it and he found it and he started doing, like all the trainers that knew me. When I left and went to Mysore once he got his license, told me he's just like you. He comes the same time, he works from the same ring. Yeah, small intricate things he does differently. That's fine. There's not only one way to get up to the hill, there are many ways to get up to the hill. But you don't leave the basics out. And the basics was hardened and he's kept that. Well, swimming comes into force only when you have a horse that has got something wrong with his legs and you can't do enough work. Let's put it this way. If you're a great swimmer in aquatics, you don't do what an athlete does. It develops other muscles. The cardiovascular fitness is totally different. An athlete doesn't spend time all the time in the pool. He does road work. He does running. Yeah, one off day, he'll have to go to relax. He'll get into the pool. The pool guy will come and do some road work one off day. But aquatics and athletics are a totally different thing. It also develops thick muscles around the neck of the horse, which don't need it, but it's better than doing no work. So the swimming pool comes into it when you have a horse that is not right. I've never worked on a treadmill. I really don't know about a treadmill. Treadmill was introduced in Bombay, RWITC. I would say nothing can measure up of doing your work on the track. Treadmill, yes, off day, you want to bring your heartbeat up, anything, want to lose a little bit of extra weight, treadmill, okay. But there's nothing to beat the horse doing his natural work with the jockey on his back. The loyalty factor is a must. The feedback, I'd like to tell me if something is wrong with the horse. I'm giving you an example. Dupont was getting ready for his derby. Warren Singh took him one morning out and he went 3 or 4 strides and he brought the horse back and he walked back. And he told me, sir, the horse is not right. I said, are you mad? The horse is perfectly all right. So we went back to trot him. It was so slight. Every 5 strides, there was one little dip. And if I had worked that horse that morning, if Warren didn't bring it back, it would have led to something serious. By him knowing the horse so well, he brought it back. I went on to win the Derby, I went on to win the Guineas, but the lead-up race was changed, rest was given immediately, and the little problem was sorted out when it was just a small problem. That was a great thing. So I want my jockeys to say, if something is wrong, I didn't feel right today, something was wrong. That's most important. That's what I want to know. The rest I can handle on my own, but if there's something wrong, it must be brought to my attention. There's strategy in every single race, but there are a couple of races that come back to my mind. And one such race was in 1976 with Young Cavalier. He was a horse by Young Lochinvar out of Cape Canaveral. He was a beautiful horse. He was a 7 furlong miler. It was the start of the season, so I was giving him a run in a 6 furlong lead-up race. He had won his last 3 starts in the winter. He looked magnificent. He was carrying 67.5. And suddenly, I got a message from the weighing room that Nawab Sultan Ali Khan, the handicapper, wanted to see me immediately before the race. So I went to him. He told me, Mr. Darashah, I have put the whole weighing room on your horse. Your horse is looking magnificent. He is going to win this race. I said, are you sure? He says, I'm positive. I said, I'm drawn 12. I've got a very fine horse against me in Seychelles, trained by Mr. Aziz Mahmud, ridden by Bashant Shindia. He's drawn 4, I'm drawn 12. He said, you will beat him. Just give him every chance. And that race I won ahead from Seychelles. It was amazing how that old man told me. And he told me, this is one of the best races you'll ever win in your life. You might train Derby winners, you might train other winners, but you'll never train a better winner than this race. And it stuck to me in my mind with 67.5 on his back. Well, to be honest, I'm not a great chap with my tension and my strain. I show it. Everybody knows when I'm worked up, when I'm got a fancy runner, I'm up and down like a panther, walking around. I can't just hide my feelings. I can't keep it pent up. The way I release it is when after I've won, it's just ecstasy. And that's the only outlet I had. If I lost my temper, if I did screaming, shouting, but it was only for that 2 minutes. Explode and then unwind. Well, I'm just going to unwind just now. I'm going to be a consultant. I'm going to be working with horses. I'm going to be on a race course. I'm going to try to give back something that has given me immense pleasure in my life. If I can be of any service to do something good for the horse and for racing, I'll be there to do it. Both in Mysore and Bangalore, I've been facilitated, and I was emotional. When you've done something for 50 years of your life and you know tomorrow morning you're not going to go there to do it and you're not going to see your horses, it chokes you. It brings out everything you've worked for all these years. And I love my horses and I love my dogs. And the fact that I was not going to go back there tomorrow morning and see them and be with them was a choking emotion. I'm not going to go back to my same spot in the paddock. I'm not going to train my horses. I'm not going to lead in another horse. It's easier said than done.
And that's all we have time for in this episode of The Winning Post. If you missed anything at all, you can always catch it on our YouTube channel. Do remember to follow Mohit Alwani on Twitter for his tips. And of course, until we see you next time, goodbye and may the horse be with you.